In 1971, Kathy Bilek was an 18-year-old student at Saratoga High School. Saratoga, California, is a quiet town protruding from the redwood trees at the base of the Santa Cruz Mountains, about 50 miles south of San Francisco. On Easter Sunday, 1971, Kathy decided the weather was perfect for a walk at Villa Montalvo, a local arts center and park. She told her parents she was going to hike and read at the park and left in the family car. On any other day, this would have been a fantastic choice. But today, something evil lurked in the park. Villa Montalvo's timeless architecture, diverse gardens, and 175 acres of wooded hillside trails make the property feel like an enchanted enclave, protected by magic from the ever-changing Silicon Valley below. Far from a remote wilderness, the estate sits within walking distance of residential neighborhoods and is frequented by locals and tourists, particularly on nice days like this one. This is the type of place where people get married and start a new life together. But for Kathy, it would be a place where her life was taken. She went for a walk, and sometime that afternoon, she was attacked. By the following day, Monday, April 12th, 1971, her family contacted authorities, and Santa Clara County Sheriff's deputies began searching the wooded areas of Villa Montalvo. Her father, Karl F Werner, joined the search. It was he who found his daughter's body in a wooded area near one of the trails. No other signs of assault were reported, and she was fully clothed. What could have motivated this, and how were there no witnesses? The location was not hidden far off trail. The attack had occurred in daylight, on a holiday, in a maintained public space. Whoever was responsible had left the grounds without drawing attention. Or so they thought. In 1971, Northern California was not unfamiliar with violent crime. Over the previous few years, several high-profile murders had taken place across the Bay Area. Some were solved, others were not. What remained was a quiet awareness that violence could surface in ordinary places. When Kathy was found stabbed on a wooded hillside in Saratoga, the question was immediate. Was this isolated or part of something larger? Less than 2 years earlier, in August 1969, two teenage girls, Deborah Furlong and Kathy Snoozy, had been found murdered on a hillside in Almaden Valley in southern San Jose. They had been stabbed over 100 times each and left in a wooded area. Strikingly familiar. There was a clear pattern emerging, but still no leads. The similarities were direct. Teenage girls, outdoor settings, overkill knife attacks with no clear motive. The thought alone was enough to shift the mood. Because these places were not hidden. They were open to the public. Maintained parks with marked trails and parking lots. For weeks, there were no clear answers. Only the realization that whoever had done this had walked through the same quiet hills as everyone else. And still did. In the weeks following Kathy Bilek's murder, several people came forward with information related to the case. Some were women who recounted narrowly avoiding similar assaults at Villa Montalvo, as well as the park's maintenance worker who remembered seeing a young man he knew hung around the park and who he thought acted a little odd. That young man was identified as Karl F Werner, an 18-year-old freshman at San Jose City College. But there was one problem. Karl didn't fit the profile of a serial killer. Although he was quiet and shy, he did well academically, held a job at a local burger stand where he was well liked, and took a personal interest in computers. In addition, he would have been only 16 at the time of the Almaden murders. However, upon digging into Karl's background, investigators uncovered something unsettling. 2 years earlier, when Karl lived in Marlborough, Massachusetts, he was arrested at 15 years old on a charge of assaulting a woman with a knife. One girl later identified Karl as someone she'd had a disturbing interaction with at the park. Karl asked the girl to hike with him and seemed nice enough. But when the girl declined his request, Karl became angry, which scared the girl enough to run away. Now the police knew they had their man. Karl was taken into custody, where police found a knife belonging to Karl. Karl was later interviewed, where he confessed to all 3 murders. Werner ultimately received a triple life sentence. The uncertainty that had lingered in Saratoga gave way to something more defined. The threat was no longer unknown. It had a name. But that did not undo what had happened on April 11th. Kathy's body now rests at the Madronia Cemetery, just a short walk from the park. Her grave is the only physical reminder of the horrific events that shook the town. Villa Montalvo remains open to the public today. The trails still wind through the trees. The estate still hosts weddings and performances. Visitors arrive in the morning and leave before sunset. Nothing about the grounds suggests interruption. There is no permanent marker along the lower trails that announces what happened there in 1971. Perhaps this is an intentional choice, to not let a terrible memory darken an otherwise magnificent property. An attempt to let the beauty of this place heal its brutal past. If you walk those paths now, you'll see the same trees, the same stone steps, the same hillside views. The setting has not changed. This is what lingers. A public park on a holiday in a quiet town that learned, slowly, that even familiar places can hold violence.